Welcome to Driven Coast to Coast Car Talk. I'm here with Brad Prather, a dad that's finishing off his son's journey.
Welcome to Driven Show Coast to Coast Car Talk, where we discuss the latest in automotive trends and the scene.
We're going to tell a little bit of a story here, a journey which his son started. Unfortunately, had passed away. Those who were at Driven last year saw Brad come by and say some words at the award ceremony. And it's been a very busy year for Brad. Let's start with Brad. Brad, are you a car guy? Let's start with that first. Are you a car guy?
I honestly no. I love looking at cars. Driven was something I didn't understand, and when COVID came along, my son loved cars, and we had a garage, and he was able to buy and sell a few cars. But yeah, as far as my knowledge about cars, changing oil maybe, changing tires maybe, but other than that, no.
Fantastic. Let's start a little bit about. Can we talk about Grayson a little bit? Maybe give us a little background about Grayson.
Yeah. So Grayson was one of those kids that he got into the bikes and stuff like that, and he was a kid that would read manuals. Like, who reads manuals, honestly? And he started up his own little business repairing bikes. Really loved downhill. He got into BMX at the B line, doing backflips and all kinds of crazy stuff. And then grade 10 came along, and he met up with, one of his first mentors, which is Mr. The mechanic at EP Scarlett. His name is Sean Huxley. And from there, one of the first things he did was take home the manuals on cars, and he just started learning about cars. And next thing you know, he bought his first car at an auction. I think he was 15 years old, and that's where the process started. In my sister's garage, where he was, starting to fix up cars and just enjoy them. And that's where it started. He loved adventure. He loved just so much stuff. This garage became a place where lots of friends came by, and he helped with projects. In fact, we ended up, one of his friends painted a car in the garage right from scratch once.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was more than just that. I think that during the COVID period, we had bought and sold, I don't know, 10 or 12 cars. Not every one did we win on, but we started out with cheap cars, and we would do a few things. And I say I would help him source stuff, and he would do the work. In fact, we had a few duds in there that made for some pretty funny stories. So yeah, that's a snapshot of Grayson. He loved he loved his friends. He loved helping people, and he loved cars. He loved pick and pull too. He was a regular pick and pull. He knew all the people's names, and that's sometimes where he would go to just make money. He would just go there and buy stuff and resell it, and that was just who he was.
It sounds like a very creative person.
Hell of a kid that got into cars hard from the sounds.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And tell us a little bit about where Grayson was when let's call it a month before Driven, because this was intended to complete for Driven 2023. Yeah. So this was last year, right?
Yeah. So Grayson's build was way too aggressive for somebody of his. I'm going to call him a first-year mechanic. What he had designed in this car has taken us a year to complete. He just had so many crazy things that he wanted to do to this car. He wanted so much to be part of the Driven community. One of his life goals, honestly, was to have his car in Driven. So he had a series of goals that sat on his wall. Everything from having a savings account to having his car into Driven to later on owning a 3-car garage to all these different things. So it was important to him. So the idea of Driven for him was very important. He had a very, very aggressive timeline, to the point that I had to get involved, not because I understand, just from a project management side of things. I could see this project was really starting to get away on him. And like when he passed, it was um, the night before he passed, he had just put in the motor and transmission, and there was so much left to do. So the car would have probably ended up going without the full electrical, which I think as we found out, would have taken the rest of the year to sort out. But it was a very aggressive timeline and build. But he was super excited and super passionate that he really wanted to show all those people that I saw last year what he could do. Yeah.
And he unfortunately had passed. Gosh, I remember receiving that phone call from you, Brad.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was 2 weeks, maybe. Was it a week before even?
No, it was a week. So the Thursday, which would have been April 28th, is when he fell, and technically he died on May 1. So you literally saw us 3 days later. So yeah, everything was still pretty raw at that point.
I know when I got the phone call, he was still there was still some hope there, right?
Yeah, there was initially there. Yeah, it just turned out that the injuries turned out to be catastrophic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how old was Grayson?
Grayson was 18. He would have turned 19, so it was 18 and a half. So way too young.
Yeah.
Oh,
Way
yeah.
too young. And that just tends to be the age. 'Cause I remember when I was 18, I always thought I could get everything done half the time,
Yes.
half
Yes.
the money, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and that was very much his story too. Pick and
Yeah.
pull had all the treasures he needed, but as you can find out, sometimes a crappy copper washer can set you back in a build weeks.
Yes, absolutely. So tell us about the car specifically.
Yeah. So the cars had an interesting journey. So Grayson, he came to me one day and he found this $500 Mazda Speed, and it was a field find. So we went out, we bought the car, took it home on a trailer, and Grayson started cleaning up, find mice and all kinds of stuff in this car. And then later on, we ended up finding one for $420. So we went out, picked it up, and that one was going to be the parts car. Later on, we ended up fixing up the orange car, and the yellow car eventually goes for paint. It turns out that one of the big problems and why the car sold for $420 was one of the parts, the bolt sits inside the frame. So you have to undo the frame, get inside there, drill it out, and then put the bolt back through it and cinch it all back up. So Grayson was blessed that he had an uncle that was a serious welder that was able to go in there and fix this all up. So literally the car started as yellow. It started as a $420 car. He worked with a guy to paint it himself. The first generation of the car was just cleaning it up and swapping parts and making the orange one, which eventually sells off. And then pick and pull, that just became his place. Eventually, over time, the engine had some issues, so he decides to rebuild the motor. He rebuilt that motor, takes it out on the road, and in his journey, he didn't break it in properly, so he ends up going around the corner, maybe too fast, who knows? And all the parts went out the back, so he sprayed oil and all that stuff. So it turns out that the turbo spun full round, and then just the engine, obviously the oil and everything went out the back. So he stops, he gets a redo of the complete car, he pulls the motor out, everything came out, like to the point where the engine bay had nothing left in it. He welded up all the holes. He wanted to make this thing absolutely perfect. So the engine paint is probably better than the outside paint, if I'm honest. And then from there, he was rebuilding the engine right from start, right from the block, and built that thing right up over the however months, how many months, I don't even know how many months, because it was just, he was just always at the garage.
And how much of this was how involved were you?
So the answer to the question is I wasn't very involved at all. I knew what he was doing. Grayson and me were tight in the sense that we talked a lot, on the phone at night about the project, frustrations, pulling stuff apart, something not working. And my job more than anything was when he would hit the ceiling of where his expectations ended up I would help him find somebody that, you know, was able to help with that project or help him source something. You know, there's lots of different places you can buy stuff, but sometimes it takes time. You know, when you need that one part, who has it, who can get it, where do you get it? So that's where I came into play. Like Maura said, like more on the project management side. As far as touching stuff, the rule was, Dad, just don't touch anything. That was the best rule.
Oh, so you weren't part of it really until.
No, no, not at all. No,
Okay.
not at all.
So tell us your thoughts. Like,
Yep.
Passed away. I think you had made a commitment to yourself
Yep.
at Driven that you were going to see this through, right?
So it actually,
Just-
yeah. So to answer the question,
Go ahead.
what ended up happening was we were at the hospital, and because we had a period of time that we knew Grayson had passed and we were donating his organs, we had a chance to bring a lot of his friends to come say their goodbyes. And the gentleman that really this last year put in the most amount of time and I have the most amount of respect for is Mike Anguish. And at the hospital, he said, yeah, I'll help you finish this thing. If it wasn't for him, honestly, this project was just, it was too big. It was too massive. It would just cost too much money to be able to get this car back on the road. Some of the modifications, you know, I don't think anybody would have even touched, to be honest. So that was the choice. Yes, at Driven, we did announce that, but that was because Mike said, yeah, I'll help you. And I'm not sure he knew how much he was biting off, to be honest.
And Mike is a friend of Grayson's?
Yeah, so Grayson had two mentors, his mechanics teacher in grade 10 and 11, and he was done in grade 11, but he'd like to go back and help and stuff like that. But Mike's son, we called him Shaggy, he was here today as well, was also, he helped Grayson pull the very first motor. He also helped Grayson put the motor in at the last minute. So he always went to Mike's house. He, you know, loved to listen to Mike. He'd tell Mike stuff. He'd borrow tools. Always scared the life out of me, him taking one of his expensive Milwaukee's to pick and pull to do something. But yeah, he was always there for Grayson, which was great. You know, when it comes to the car builds, I think that, like I said, that those were the two mentors. It was, you know, Dad was a little distant from that perspective.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I mean, everybody's bought a car that's,
yeah,
you know, perhaps halfway through a project or modified. I mean, Jeff, I remember your Zed when you bought it. It was heavily modified, and you so got to complete the work, right? Or even fix some stuff. And you're motivated because it's the car you wanted, right? But here's Brad here that inherited a car, and probably are you in, is it fun for you now? We're gonna get into the build soon, but did you look at it and go, I'm excited to do this, or was it like, what were the emotions at the time?
Terror, absolute and complete terror. I remember going to the car and showing Mike, and all he kept looking, he was looking around at everything, going, okay, and you know, when somebody's like that, and they've got that feeling there, you're nervous because, you know, it's like, good Lord, if he doesn't help me, there's nothing there. I don't know what I'll do. So at the end, he goes, yeah, okay, I can help you. And that's where it went. I honestly, I've been terrified every day. You know, I go over there and I just, you know, do I know the name of parts? Sure. How do they go together? Not a clue. So it's been quite a process for me. We've shared, me and Mike, a lot of coffees together. We would go over together usually once or twice a week, and he was very patient with me. And sometimes he would ask for tools under the car, and nope, that's not right. Nope, that's not right. Nope, that's not right. Eventually I'd get him the right tool some of the time, and the rest of the time was trying to figure out bolts. And I spent most of my year trying to figure out where the parts were. Grayson had a photographic memory of some sort, so he could throw all the bolts in a bucket, or many buckets in his case, in many places that he would hide stuff. And that was the trickiest part, honestly, was to try and find stuff, because you honestly have no idea what it looks like, let alone how it goes in, let alone the thread pattern and bolt size and which size and this size. And so that was extremely challenging for me. So yeah, terror, definitely terror.
Jeff, would you have the energy to do something like this?
With the motivation that's on the table here, yeah. I mean, we're all parents, and so this stuff resonates pretty heavily, and I love the idea of seeing it through and finishing the story. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. My answer is yes, but I'd probably hire a ton of people. No offense, Brad. It's
Yeah, no, I
a
appreciate
lot of
what you're
work.
saying.
It's respect, really, is what it is, right?
Yeah, no,
And
I appreciate what you're saying. In my particular case, we've had a lot of financial setbacks as a family in the last number of years, and that would just, it wasn't an option.
Mhm.
So, Grayson had all the work, all the money, everything. That came 100% from him working and selling stuff on the side and helping people. That was it. I came up with some creative ideas for him to make money and things like that. But yeah, this was all him.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the build. Like, did you continue the vision? Did you take some?
Yeah.
Did you go and get creative? Did you one up what? Let's hear.
Just before you get into that, though, let's just let everybody know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So the basics: year, make, model, color, transmission.
Okay.
Whatever.
So Grayson, this was the third car in the series, but this is it was originally a yellow Mazda Protege Speed. So the 2-liter turbo, it's a 5-speed front-wheel drive. Other than that, and then as we start talking about the car, it originally was yellow. It was completely painted, including like all the yellow has now been replaced by red inside the hood, in the trunk, everywhere. The next part of the build was that he had taken the motor out and completely rebuilt it from the block up. He had replaced the turbo, and then the next part was he relocated the battery to the trunk. But the most aggressive part was he changed and ran all the wiring to the back. And I think that vision came from, there was a gentleman at Driven last year that had done that in an RX-7. We didn't go to that level, but that was Grayson's vision, was to move the electrical all to the back, which turned out to just be a monumental feat. So, and then after that, I carried exactly his vision to the point where I had all my notes because we had been talking. There was a very, very, very few things that I changed. The only things I did change is I did get, some sponsorship and help from some old friends from junior high to finish what we wouldn't have had the skill to be able to do, i.e. the carbon fiber hood needed to be done by somebody professional. I had, my good friend from high school that was able to do that part for me. He repainted the front bumper for me, just to make everything perfect. It was wrapped by another friend from high school. And then from there, as we got into it, some of the parts were scratched or whatever, and brought it to another friend to get it wrapped in carbon fiber, or just things like that. So we stayed with the vision. We followed through with the vision. The car is, I added a few custom touches that he would have liked, but not necessarily had the money to do. But like I said, I was able to get some sponsorship and some help with some friends. So that was, so that's the answer to that question.
So was this a vehicle that he had been eyeing up? Is it something he was looking for? How did he land on a Mazda Speed 3?
So we ended up, the first car was a Lancer. I think we had 3 Lancers in total in the groupings, and his thing was always buy, fix up, sell, have more money. And then what we found was, it was just who he was. He had just always wanted to change and upgrade and add and things like that. So the Mazda Speed wasn't necessarily on our radar, but when he found that cheap one, it became that car. My car was always the Mustang GT. That being said, it wasn't for him. It was this car. Yeah. So
Well, and I mean, those, if I remember correctly, when those Mazda Speed 3s came out, like factory turbocharged motors were not, very common. So it had some kind of uniqueness at the time, but I don't think it caught on, to the degree of other
yeah.
things have.
So the Mazda Speed, this particular one is the protege, so it's the 4-door one. So they only make it for a year and a half, and then they go away from them, and then they do come back as the Mazda 3, and it's completely ratified and made much cooler. So this one kind of looks like, in all honesty, it looks like a family car. It's 4-door and stuff, and
Oh yeah.
until you look at all the performance stuff that they got. I think it retailed at 2027 or something, which is pretty expensive really for that car. And then I guess it was their version of keeping up with, what was the other ones at the time. I don't really know.
I mean, any just performance brand, offshoot variant, whatever, right? They're just keeping it in the game, keeping Mazda in the game.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
So did he have, like you had kind of alluded to, some crazy goals and stuff that he wanted to do with this car? Is there anything that we can let the people know he was aiming for? What were some of the kind of wilder modifications?
Yeah, so I guess changing the turbo created, was kind of he upsized the turbo. He wanted to, do like everybody else and have a whole bunch of tunes and stuff like that in it. He had changed a lot of the, more or less moved all of the, like the battery and stuff out of the hood. He wanted everything covered to look like, some of those cars that you see World of Wheels where you don't see any of the wires, stuff like that.
Yeah, full wire tuck.
Ultimately going for. He wanted it to stand out in driven more than anything, is to, he had got all the turbo piping remade so it comes out into the wheel well versus the standard one that just comes sitting across. So when you see the engine, you see it looks, everything looks clean underneath is basically how I would describe it. We moved some stuff around just to make it look as clean as possible. So there's lots of real estate so you can still see the actual paint in there versus, an engine that's completely stuffed every which direction. So that would be probably more of it. The next part would be more performance parts, which would be everything from the 34-way adjustable struts to he's got the Mazda Speed rims from an RX-7 that he got from his friend Tim, changing the turbo, upgrading everything. The interior is actually from a Mazda Speed leather interior, which didn't fit. So that was all modified as well. And then, every part of the car was unique in some way. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's doing a true build. He's not just slapping on some wheels and an exhaust and calling it a showstopper. Yeah,
this car literally, when we took over, there was nothing inside the interior, like nothing. And inside, the electrical was completely sitting. So think about, a build with an engine sitting there with nothing hooked up. The turbo is not hooked up. There's no wiring done. There's no interior. There's no blueprint, right? So you go off somebody's vision and go, all right, let's go. And I think that for what Mike did is absolutely phenomenal to be able to, to go back and check out all these manuals and be able to understand these electrical diagrams, which just terrify me looking at it. I don't even know what they are.
So the big question is, we're 2 weeks away.
Yep.
Driven Calgary.
Yep.
Where are we at, Brad?
We're done. This weekend, Tim texted me today, so we got to put on the hood, the bumper, and just finish taping up some of the wires, and it's done. It's ready to go.
Wait. So 72 hours ago, you messaged me and said there was an issue, right? And my heart dropped because this is the one car that I want to see finish in time for Driven. Tell us what happened there and how did you fix it?
Yeah, so we didn't. So the answer to the question is we completed it. It's rolling, but when we're done the show, the motor comes out. So sadly, what happened is Grayson, when he put together the motor, he missed something. He didn't tighten some of the sequences or something. So the motor sadly is shot. Absolutely broke my heart. Mike absolutely broke his heart too. Yeah, when we started it up a while back, did all the testing and stuff like that, it ran no problem. When we added the coolant, first problem we had was the copper washers, so it was leaking everywhere. Replaced those, and then once the coolant was added, it's like the head gasket isn't even there. It's just completely sucking coolant. So we can look at, taking the head off and spending 20 hours, or just put a brand new motor in at 30 hours. So that's, I think, the plan that we're going to do. Yeah.
What fascinates me,
yeah,
Brad, is you're talking like a true car guy. Like,
yeah, funny, eh?
And,
yeah. So Mike, I think Mike's beat it into me subconsciously. Yeah.
And I guess just from your own perspective, right? Like tell us a little bit about how you've changed through this.
Yeah, what's fascinated me more than anything is just getting. I've got some friends that have done some crazy builds themselves, and for Grayson to see some of these builds was really cool. So to be able to see their builds and now understand the process they've gone through, I think was transformational for me. But also through the video series, regurgitating really what I've heard from Mike about what we're doing, to be able to explain it is really kind of the change in the process. I think more than anything, it's okay. So here today we were working on the turbo, and the spacing was wrong on the turbo, so now we have to pull apart the intercooler to be able to do this. Does that make sense to me? I understand it because I see it, but I don't necessarily. Could I have done that? No, but I do understand by watching what we're doing. Yes. Yeah. So that's the biggest thing.
Would you have been surprised?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Of how this has shaped you, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I like I said when I was at Driven last year, my son invited me the year before, and he went, and some of the car shows, and I get it, but I didn't get it. Like we kept saying to him, like, why are you spending so much money? Like, he's 18 years old. We have limited finances as we were plugging along due to some mistakes we made. And, he's spending all of his time and money and energy on this car. So to see kind of where I came to, I think would be a big surprise to him for sure. To know that I went out and got sponsorship to help me make his vision happen is, I think, would have blown him away. Absolutely.
I would assume that kid is beaming with pride right now. He is proud as hell of his own man.
Yeah, and one of the things that we did throughout the process was I've really tried to include his friends as best I could. As I found out, it turned out to be a little bit more technical than I thought to be able to include people, but I did my absolute best. But we created the video series to show people, mostly his friends, about what we're up to and what we're doing, and these were kids that this garage was their place to hang out. They spent so many hours there, and showing different people this last week just kind of where we're at is it's healing for sure. And
I was going to say, like, has this process been cathartic for you? That it's a long journey and a lot of challenges and highs and lows. And I would assume it's got to kind of give you a sense of closure to almost a degree.
I think so. People are a little worried about kind of after this, what do I have after this? And that's a bit of the question, because I've spent so much time, but you have to deal with your grief, and this was one way that I truly could deal with it and
just process it all, right?
Yeah.
So May 4th.
Yep.
The car's gonna be there. It'll be finished.
Be there.
Yep. We're gonna debut it.
Yep.
We're gonna pick a time, probably around like 2:30, like that time frame. We covered. We're gonna have Brad. We're gonna have say some words. Well, make sure that there's a presentation.
Yep.
As Jeff said, is there anything after this, I guess?
The biggest thing is, so we've got, there's a lot of people coming down, a lot of his friends that have been following the build. I think that when the YouTube video of my first one went up, I think it's over 3,000 views. So that's a lot. My son didn't think he had many friends, but what I found out is he knew a lot of people. And I think that, people watching this and people have tuned in and friends and family and stuff like that, I think will be curious to come check it out. Obviously, they'll be the normal driven people, but I think there'll be a lot of people there. One of his good friend that's done all of our video and editing and stuff like that will be there as well to help kind of record some of that stuff. I think it'll be such an emotional day that it might just kind of go over like that. So it'd be fun to be able to look back, and there'll be some people that won't be able to make it. So yeah, it's going to be a day for sure. It'll be an emotional day, but super exciting too.
It's amazing what we had driven. Very honored to be the platform to host you.
Yeah.
So,
and you were amazing last year. Like I said, I just didn't have any expectations of what driven was, and that's what my talk was last year. But now I do understand, and like I said, getting to know some of these people that have been involved in driven that have helped us has just been unbelievable. And
people
even
talk about
yeah.
Some of the bad things about the community, but I can tell you there's some great things that happen as well, and I think the whole automotive community is going to really celebrate this.
And you know what?
Vehicle.
Grayson knew so many people at Pickable. Like I would go in there and you'd run into somebody, or I'd get a text message that he knew this person from Pick and Pull and they were going through a hard time and he helped them out. It's like, what? Like, just he touched so many different lives. And what you talked about the last time, what I was trying to say earlier about the sponsorship side of things is, I think that people make the mistake of trying to go out and knock on doors and say, here, pay for my build because I have 1,000 followers. That's not what this is about. Sponsorship is about a two-way street. It's about, the place that I normally shop, like Global Paint. Those guys were amazing because they helped us. They made us understand. Like, I didn't know anything about paint, neither did Grayson. But they took the time to explain things to us so we always came there. We always, told lots of other people to come there. And then eventually, they would give us a little bit of a deal. Great. That's what sponsorship is. It's not about, asking somebody to pay to paint your car. That's not right. You do have friends along the way that can help you, but it's not about, having somebody pay off everything. It could be a portion of, and that's what these sponsorships were.
Well, I think we're going to step up, Brad, at Driven, and we're going to set you up with a whack of tickets to give away to some people who helped you.
Thank you. You don't have to do that. But
no, it's we want to be part of this. So
it's not because he has to, it's because he wants to. So.
And that was my message last year. You tried to give it free, and I just said absolutely not. Grayson wouldn't want that. So that is very kind. I appreciate that a lot.
Guys, May 4th. Jeff, any closing thoughts?
I'm looking forward to seeing the completed project. I think this story is really special, and I'm thankful that you shared it with us.
I'm honored, honestly, guys. Like I've told Mike today that I was going to be on it, and he's a pretty quiet, humble guy, and he's like, "Hey, that's pretty cool."
Well, we're going to share as much information beforehand. Please make sure we'll have Brad's YouTube channel in the description as well. I've been following every part of the build. Thank you for texting me. I'm probably one of the first few views that you get every time I see them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We filmed our last one actually just the other day. It was more just to thank the sponsors. Yeah, we got the signs and stuff done up again. There's just, like I said, I'm so impressed with you guys specifically, the Driven community, and all these wonderful people that have stepped up to make a vision happen. Like I said, without the people, so I said this to, they talk about it takes a community to raise a child, but I think it takes a community to build a car, and that's for sure the message, right?
That's fantastic. Good to steal that line for our tag next year.
You can have it.
Thank you, guys. We'll catch you at the next podcast, and we'll see you at Driven May 4th.
See everyone in Calgary.
Take care.